Hey guys, Alan here with Fast Break. I'm in one of my favorite places in Chattanooga, Yellow Racket Records with Ben, the owner.
Hello.
What made you decide to open a record shop in an era where digital music is just available?
Yeah, I mean, I was big into CDs when I was a kid. You know, back in the 90s and early 2000s, I was buying CDs left and right. And then, you know, they kind of started fading out of style, and everybody was getting the iPod and you know, or whatever your device of choice was. And that was really convenient, but I found that, like, after I sold off a lot of my CDs, that I really missed the ritual of going to the record store and curating a collection, and also like the personal interactions that you have in the process of doing that. And so I had some friends, this was back in like 2008, 2009, who were starting to get into records at the time. And that's really, if you go back and, you know, look at the numbers, that's really when record sales started taking off. And of course they've exploded in the last few years. But I've been buying records for about 15 years now. And for the longest time, you know, I was, you know, wishing that there was a different kind of record store in Chattanooga. Like, you know, I had this vision in mind of what I thought a record store should look like and would look like. And eventually, you know, after I started my record label in 2018, a couple years later, I thought, well, maybe I'm the one who's supposed to start the record store, and I did.
That's the hardest part, when no one else is doing it and there's a need or a desire for it. Making that decision to jump off the cliff and say, I'll be the one to give it a shot. How has the community responded to having a record store? I know it takes a little bit of time, but yeah, what do you feel? Who's your customer?
I mean, it's been incredible, and our customers come from all different places and age groups. You know, we have guys who never got rid of their vinyl collections and always like held onto their turntable and have been, you know, collecting wax for like, you know, 60 years, and they're our customers. But we also have kids who are like 15 and buying their first Nirvana record and their brand new, like, first ever turntable, because, you know, and people would say, oh, why vinyl? Why is it growing? Is it nostalgia? And it's like, well, it's not nostalgia because none of these kids grew up with it. But I think it's the tactile nature of it, and the fact that it's so much more intentional and kind of intimate. You know, you really foster much deeper and stronger memories with the music when it's real and physical. It exists in time and space, and you can hold it in your hands.
Do you think that's also the situation with retail in general, and coming into a shop or a restaurant or a bookstore or a shoe store versus maybe having a digital experience or something like that? It's very tactile when you come in. There's a communication, there's a camaraderie, there's assistance, there's all of that. Talk about that.
I think there's a pendulum swing. We have so many sort of assets available at our fingertips that make shopping really convenient, and so this pendulum has been swinging way over to the side of convenience for the last decade or more. Right. And the convenience is awesome, and the accessibility of things is awesome, but I think we're starting to see sort of a counterculture, a counter reaction, the pendulum swinging back in a certain way, because people realize, like, well, I kind of enjoyed like walking into the store and finding the thing that I wanted, or asking somebody. Right. It's crazy to me how I get a little bit of enjoyment from like buying my paper or my ink cartridges at like at the office supply store, as opposed to buying it online. And that seems silly, but it applies to so many things. And I think that the more personal the item is, the more enjoyable like the in-person shopping experience is. So vinyl records and books, running shoes, clothing, it's so much more enjoyable to look for those things in person and try them out and touch them with your hands and have a conversation with somebody about it.
So that's kind of what the precipice of Chattanooga Chase is, all right? I didn't know that at first. It was a race that was going away, you know, because there's so many digital races, there's so many things that you can do on your watch or on Strava or whatever. You don't need to be in community. And once we started bringing back the nostalgia and the process of a race like the Chattanooga Chase, we started seeing people show up. Yeah. And then what they showed up to see was each other, right? And then that need to connect and whatever. And then when we brought along, you know, local vendors to kind of hang out, to provide entertainment, art, food, you know, and just a general sense of being around each other, it continues to grow. Yeah. So like inviting you out to local businesses out like yourself to kind of experience that. I want you guys to, I want to remind you how important you are. I want other people to see you out there, and I want you to interact, because there ain't nothing better than coming in here. And what's your favorite part about being a local business?
I think that my favorite part is feeling like I'm actually making a difference in the world. I'm making a difference in people's lives. I worked in a corporate environment for a long time, and it was very stable.
I was just going to straighten your tie. Your corporate environment.
Oh yeah, and that's fine. I'm not going to knock on it, but eventually I couldn't help this overwhelming feeling that I had to leave, because what I was doing on a day-to-day basis didn't really matter. It didn't have a purpose or like a real noticeable effect on the people around me, and specifically on my own community.
Right.
And so I really felt like I needed to be doing something where at the end of my life I could look back and say, like, I think I made a difference. I think I touched some people, and I think that, like, I was actually an active part of the community that I lived in.
So this year is the Chattanooga Chase. It's the 57th running of it. You guys are the musical sponsor. You're going to be sponsoring Jaguar Shark on stage. You're going to be out there with some records, showing off what you got. Last year I wanted you to come, and I think you had a baby being born.
Yeah, that's right.
So you couldn't show
close,
up. You didn't. I was really disappointed you didn't come. But this year you're going to make your mark. So tell us a little bit about what you're bringing and what you're gonna.
Yeah, so we'll do a pop-up shop. We've done this kind of thing at bars and festivals and things before. So we basically bring out a selection of records so people can get an idea of what it's like to shop at Yellow Racket and the kind of things that we care about. Honestly, I just expect it to be a lot of exactly what we've been talking about: culture building, community building, interacting with people, and just like sharing the joy of all of these things that we're celebrating. And it's like the race is a good excuse to bring all of these things together and just celebrate life overall.
It's a little bit selfish on my part. I get to bring out all the little pieces of things that I like. It's records and food and art and music and running and all the things. So it's a little bit of a selfish thing on my part to try to bring you guys together. But I'm so excited and so grateful that you're going to be there. Do you think any of your Yellow Racket patrons are runners?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I definitely am going to see a lot of familiar faces there, I'm sure.
Okay.
People who, just like you, share all those same loves and affections for those things.
Well, we'll hit you guys up with a customer code if your patrons want to get a little Yellow Racket on the side discount.
Yeah, we can make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, and thank you so much for having me here in your beautiful shop. I love you very much. I love what you do. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. The feeling's mutual.